Hi friends, good afternoon. And once more we are here with video number 16 for National Bookstore's #Read Out Loud Challenge. For today, we are going to read, or at least I will be reading for you. This time it's got to be an excerpt. The story itself is too long, but it's really a treasure. It's taken from the book The Happy Dragon and Other Fairy Tales. And I'll be reading an excerpt of The Happy Dragon for you. And let's see, because to be quite honest, I've been trying to look for the author for this. And I'm stumped. But let me see. Well, it does say it's The Happy Dragon and Other Stories by Thatcher and Hogarth, with a really, really lovely plate and a really, really lovely introductory picture, illustration. And what I love about The Happy Dragon is how it pokes fun at the typical damsel in distress, evil dragon, prince slays dragon, happily ever after story. And essentially, it shows you just what a sweetheart dragons can be if you treat them nicely. Okay, so we start off with the king getting really worried because a dragon has been pretty much eating all the pretty maidens in his kingdom. And he's just issued a proclamation that any prince who slays the dragon gets to have his daughter's hand in marriage, as it typically goes. And then this happens. The king says, one more time. Okay. That very morning before breakfast, the king spent half an hour reading it aloud to the whole court, proclamation. And when he had finished, the applause was really very gratifying when you consider how desperately hungry all the courtiers must have been. Copies were forthwith dispatched by trusty messengers to every neighboring kingdom whose prince happened to be a bachelor. And then, feeling that he had done all that could be expected of a king who was compelled to choose between a dragon and a son-in-law, His Majesty sat down to breakfast and said, "Happen what may, I have acted for the best." While all this was taking place, the dragon had somehow got wind of the princess's whereabouts, and hungrily came every night prancing through the forest to prowl hungrily round and round the tower, from which the guards all fled as soon as he made his appearance. The princess, who knew nothing of this to do, and who, by the king's express command, had never, in all her 16 years, been allowed even to hear the word dragon mentioned, looked out of her tower window one fine morning and saw the beast lying asleep, coiled up in the sunshine. "Oh!" she exclaimed to her lady-in-waiting. "Oh, do look at that wonderful creature! How its scales glitter in the sun! I wonder what it is." "That!" screamed the horrified lady-in-waiting, completely forgetting all her instructions about never mentioning the word. "It's that fearful dragon! Come away from the window at once, your highness! If it sees us, we are lost!" "Well, I rather like the look of it," said the princess, craning her head out a little further to get a better view of the monster. "Oh, that dear quaint thing! Isn't it perfectly sweet?" The dragon, who had been awakened by the lady-in-waiting's scream, could barely believe his ears. All his life he had been hated and feared, had been accustomed to being greeted with cries of horror and alarm, and called unpleasant names like wretch and monster and loathly worm. Never before, in the whole of his experience as a dragon, had anyone expressed the faintest liking for him. Never, never before had anyone called him sweet. Even a dragon has a heart somewhere, and this one's warm towards the lovely girl leaning out of the tower window and gazing at him with admiring eyes in which there was no trace of fear. He uncoiled himself slowly in the sunshine and stood looking up at her rather sheepishly, with his head on one side. Excuse me. "Do you like cake, dragon dear?" cooed the princess, leaning down over the windowsill with a ravishing smile, while her lady-in-waiting stood in the background, whimpering and wringing her hands. The dragon, who had never even heard of cake, didn't know what she meant, but she looked so sweetly and kindly at him that he couldn't help feeling pleased all over. So he wriggled and flattened his ears and wagged the tip of his tail slightly. "Oh, all right, wait a minute," said the princess, who took this to mean yes. She disappeared from the window, only to return in a few moments carrying a golden dish on which an immense, rich-looking plum cake with almonds scattered thickly on the top. "Shut your eyes," she laughingly commanded the dragon, "and open your mouth and see what the fairies will give you." The dragon sniffed. Something smelled exceedingly good. So he did as he was bid. "Wider," said the princess. The dragon then opened his mouth to its fullest extent. A horrid sight, but the princess didn't seem to mind. She tilted up the dish, and taking careful aim, she dropped the cake plump into the gaping jaws below. "Nyum, nyum," said the dragon, munching and crunching the cake, almonds and all. "Nyum, nyum." He had never tasted anything so delicious before. It was far sweeter than the most beautiful maiden. And I'm not kidding about the nyum nyum. You better see this for yourself. See, it really does say that. The princess laughed and clapped her hands with delight. "Look at his long twisty tail! Isn't he a pet?" she cried to her horrified lady-in-waiting. "Oh, I wish he were mine." The poor lady-in-waiting shuddered and gasped, and clutching her handkerchief, immediately went off into such violent hysterics that the princess had to call for help. By the time they had poured cold water over the sufferer, burnt feathers under her nose, and slapped her hands, and tickled her feet, and rolled her about on the floor until all the buttons flew off her clothes in every direction, the dragon had taken his departure. When she was calmer, the lady-in-waiting got up, and while she collected her buttons, told the princess the dragon's whole history, not forgetting to mention his large appetite, which could only be satisfied with young and beautiful maidens, and also about the royal proclamation, adding that even now a prince might be on his way to slay this foul monster, and rescue the princess from the dreadful fate which threatened her. "Oh, I don't believe the poor creature's half as black as he's painted," was all the princess remarked when she heard the lady-in-waiting's story. "He ate cake like a perfect lamb, and I hope he will come again tomorrow. Oh, it's very dull here, and it would be such fun teaching him to sit up and do tricks." And sure enough, the next morning the dragon came again and found the princess waiting for him. She talked to him in her pretty innocent way, and fed him with cake and other dainties, and taught him to sit up exactly like a pet dog. And every day after that, the dragon came prancing through the forest to the tower and frisked heavily about in front of the window, and every day the princess fed him with scrumptious treats. She became really and truly fond of him at last, and because he valued her affection, the dragon, who had never before had anyone to love him, did his utmost to please her. Amongst other accomplishments, she taught him to talk. He was an apt pupil, and soon learned to do this far better than the court parrot, a stupid bird, which only repeated the same thing over and over again until everybody was sick and tired of hearing it. The dragon, too, in his dragonly way, soon became devotedly attached to the princess, and I will do him the justice to say that he never for one single instant thought of her as dinner. And that was an excerpt from The Happy Dragon and Other Fairy Tales. So I hope that this short adorable excerpt brightened your day. Thank you so much for joining me once again for video 16 for National Bookstore's hashtag Read Out Loud Challenge. So please remember, for every 75 videos uploaded of people reading aloud an excerpt from a book, National Bookstore has pledged to set up one library. So please do keep those videos coming, and I do sincerely look forward to watching your own uploads. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, scrumptious day. Take care.